everyone. This is a quick video guide for the first written assignment, the research report. So, as we've discussed in class already, the research report is a 5 to 6 page written report that's worth 10% of the final grade. This report requires you to select a substantial or substantive primary source from the tutorial reader, Open History Seminar Canadian History. You're asked to include a full citation for the selected primary source at the top of your report. The report should include answers to all of the questions that are listed in the assignment, which I'll go over in a moment. You should use high-quality scholarly secondary sources to answer those questions. You should cite all of the information that you use in your report using Chicago Manual of Style footnotes. Your report should include a separate bibliography with a minimum of 5 scholarly secondary sources. And finally, the report should be written clearly using proper grammar and spelling. This report should be written in full sentences with full paragraphs, not notes or bullet points. So, the assignment description includes a number of questions that you need to answer in your report. The first of which is to identify what type of document this is. When was it originally produced? Who is the author? Who was the intended audience? Why was this document produced? What is omitted from this source? And finally, what can historians know about the past from this source? To answer these questions, you're going to need to do some additional research. The primary source itself will have some answers and some clues to these questions, but you're going to need to look at secondary sources to be able to fully contextualize the document and to fully answer these questions. So your first step in completing this assignment is to find your substantive primary source document. Remember, our description or definition of a primary source is that primary sources are the direct evidence or first-hand accounts of events without secondary analysis or interpretation. A primary source is a work that was written or created at a time that is contemporary or nearly contemporary with the period or subject being studied. And our textbook for the tutorials is full of primary sources to choose from. So if you hop over to the textbook, you can see here in this chapter on Canadian culture, there's a document called the Report of the Royal Commission on National Development in the Arts, Letters, and Sciences. And if you click through on the document here up at the top, you'll see it takes you to the full document itself. You can flip through the pages, see the whole thing. Looking at the full document will give you answers to some of those questions for the research report. You can figure out when it was published. You can figure out at least the name of the author or who wrote it, and then begin your secondary source research to try and fill out those answers and answer all the remaining questions there. If we go back to an earlier week that we already looked at on colonialism and Christianity, for example, you see the same thing. Here you've got a passage that we selected from the Jesuit Relations from the 17th century. And again, if you click through, you can access the full document itself to begin to answer some of the questions for the research report assignment. The second step for completing this assignment is to answer those key questions with scholarly secondary source research. So scholarly secondary sources are those secondhand interpretations, usually by historians and other experts, that can fill out the context for understanding a primary source document. And there's a number of secondary sources that you can choose. The first, of course, are books, and those can be found in the library catalog. Those are easily found just using the search bar here in the library catalog, putting in key terms that are related to the document that you're looking at. The next type of source you might use are journal articles. Those can also be found using library resources, and we've given you a link in the assignment description to something called the Canadian History Research Guide. If you click through on this link, it'll take you over here to this page. Sorry, just go back here. And you'll see there's a section called Finding Articles. If you click on Indexes and Databases, it'll take you to a list of databases that you can search to find specific journal articles. And the best one for Canadian history is a database called America History and Life. Click through on that, and it'll take you to a search box here where you can type in some key terms. Let's type in Jesuit relations. And it'll bring up a list of journal articles related to the Jesuit relations. And maybe some of these might be useful for your research report, for contextualizing the document that you're going to look at. And you've even got these links here to be able to find it at York. Most of these journal articles are going to be available electronically, so you can download them directly and read them on your computer. So be sure to take a look at America History and Life if you're having trouble finding journal articles relevant to the document that you are using for your research report. Another good secondary source is a biography, especially for trying to answer who wrote the document that you're looking at. Biographies can flesh out the life of the individual who wrote the document to provide, again, more context for understanding it. One of the best biographies that you can use for this assignment is called the Dictionary of Canadian Biography. This is a huge online resource for finding short biographies of key figures in Canadian history. So you can see here, this is the website for the Dictionary of Canadian Biography. If you search for that on Google, it'll come up as one of the first links. And you can see there's biographies on all kinds of figures in Canadian history. You can search for the figure that you're looking for. So let's say you chose a document that was written by Louis Riel. You can see here you've got a biography of Louis Riel, which provides you with an image as well as a really rich but brief biography to help contextualize who that historical figure was. Dictionary of Canadian Biography is a really useful resource for this assignment. Now, one of the challenges is going to be determining whether or not you're looking at a scholarly source or a popular source. And we gave you a link to one of these Spark modules called Books, Journals, and More. And this should help you figure out that tricky distinction between scholarly and popular sources. You see here in the second section of the module, there's an exercise on identifying scholarly and popular sources and distinguishing between the two. If you haven't already taken a look at this, go back and take a look at it. It'll help you with this assignment to make sure that you find 5 scholarly secondary sources for your research. Finally, I wanted to say a quick thing about citations. In those full sentences and paragraphs that you're going to use in your research report, you need to include footnotes to cite all of the information that you gathered in your research. In history, we use the Chicago Manual of Style, and there's actually an online guide for helping you sort out how to format your footnotes and your bibliography. It's really easy. So we put a link to it in the assignment description just down at the bottom of here to the Chicago Manual of Style online, which you have access to with your library account. When you click on that link, it brings up this page here, and you can click to access the resource, which will bring up this page here. And you're looking at the Chicago Manual of Style online. Now, I'll give you a quick tip. If you go over into Help and Tools and select under Tools here, Citation Quick Guide, this is a guide that gives you quick examples of how to cite a book, how to cite a newspaper, how to cite a journal article. If you go to the section called Notes and Bibliography Style, which is the style that we're using, footnotes and bibliography, here it is. This is an example of how you would cite a book in a footnote, and here's an example of how you would cite it in your bibliography. It's a really good quick reference to go to if you forget exactly the formatting for your footnotes or your bibliography. And of course, you can always ask me or your tutorial instructor for help on how to do your citations and for anything for this assignment. Finally, I've got a few quick additional guidelines, tips for how to do well on this assignment. Proofread. Assignments that haven't been proofread will likely get a very low grade, so make sure that you're reviewing your writing, those full sentences and full paragraphs, to see that the grammar is accurate, that the sentence structure is clear, and that your ideas are being conveyed fully and appropriately to your reader. If you need help with proofreading, and I highly recommend this, have someone else read it, and maybe have them read it out loud to you. Sometimes it's easier to hear errors in your grammar than it is to read them on the page. Make sure you include page numbers on your assignment. When you submit this assignment, you're going to upload it directly to the assignment page on Moodle as a single PDF document. So if you're writing this in Microsoft Word, or you're writing this in Google Docs or Apple Pages, you're going to need to convert that file into a PDF. If you're not sure how to do that, just type into Google, how do I convert a Word document into a PDF, or a Google document into a PDF, or a Pages document into a PDF. When you're writing in this report, make sure you write about historical events, persons, and places in the past tense. If you've struggled with what tense to use in your writing in other assignments, the quick guide for history assignments is that you're usually going to write in the past tense. Be sure to include your name, student number, and course information on the title page or at the top of your written report. And that's it. If you've got any questions about the assignment, you can always talk to me or your tutorial instructors during office hours. Details about our office hours are available on the Moodle site for History 2500. So please do come with us with questions and concerns as you work towards completing the assignment before the due date. Good luck, everyone.